On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, is the early season success sustainable for the Oklahoma City Thunder?
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, me member, editor-in-chief over at thunderousintentions.com, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LO Thunderpod. On today's show, brought to you by Gametime, we're joined by Oklahoman beat writer Joel Lorenzi, making his debut on the show. Is this sustainable for the Thunder? Chet, Cason, everything you want to know about, we'll talk about on today's show. Again, brought to you by Gametime. Gametime, go download the app, create your account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. And thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you. Joel, you're here for us today talking Thunder basketball. How have you enjoyed the new dig so far?
It's fun, man. Like, just, obviously covering colleges before, like, this was the goal. So, like, just being around the NBA, being on the road, being, everything about it has just been dope, bro. So I can't complain at all. And I mean, the team's been good. So, like, I really can't complain, so.
The team has been good. You got your start here, the start of the season. And so with how the Thunder have performed right out of the gate, do you view this as a sustainable start for Oklahoma City?
Yeah, probably not, right? Only because, you look at like Cason Wallace being the league's leading leader in three-point efficiency. Like, not to say he's not a good shooter, which I think he is, but like some of these numbers, like for OKC, have been outrageous, just in terms of early efficiency, and some of them have already started to drop off. But like, a few things. Like, one, I think they've caught breaks schedule-wise, like just between guys maybe being hurt or certain circumstances or back-to-backs. Like, they've secretly caught some breaks. Not to say that they won't continue to be good, but I think a slump will come. And I think right now we viewed them as like almost perfect. Like, even their losses, I think their worst loss by far was the Nuggets loss, which was the first few games of the season. And since then, like, it's either been a tight game. Like, I think back to the Warriors game where that call decided that game, and some of their other losses were like just late game stuff, young team stuff, I guess, which Mark would disagree with. But I don't know how much of the shooting and stuff is sustainable, but I'm not sure it needs to be. I think this team is genuinely good. Second in the conference. I don't know if that's sustainable, but I think by now they've probably convinced us that they're a playoff team, right?
Yeah, I think that this Thunder team is a playoff team. Would you consider them a top 6 seed in the West? How steep do you think the eventual kind of mean will be?
We got so much time left that it's hard to say, but like I said, like they've caught breaks in that they've been relatively healthy. J-Dub missing those 3 games was the most they've been hit with, real injuries. Shai missed a game, I believe.
Against Golden State.
Yeah, and they played the Kings, who were missing Fox at the time. They played Golden State, who missed Draymond all those games, and missed Steph, I think, the first time. They've played a couple games against the Bulls, or like, they've caught the Bulls early in their implosion, and I don't think the Bulls are going to suddenly get better. I think they are who they are, but they've caught some breaks early versus I don't know, other teams who they haven't played like a Boston yet, or they haven't. And some people will say, oh, well, this team doesn't have a signature win yet. Maybe that's true. I thought at the time the win in Golden State after the Chet buzzer beater 3 was probably their signature win. But you could argue that it's not in the grand scheme of the season. Maybe they're still looking for that win that convinces you. I don't know that the Dallas one necessarily convinced people too much for obvious reasons. So yeah, I think Top 6 seed, I think that's fair. I think stuff will still have to level out. But I can see them being 5, 6. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, I think that this team will avoid the play-in tournament in a good way. I think that they've had a lot of, quality wins. I think Dallas was still a quality win. It was an odd way to get there, but to survive multiple Dallas runs, including 30-0, kind of just shows what this team is made of a little bit. Now, the Ringer came out with their ranking of players, an updated ranking. We discussed this a little bit at the Blue game this afternoon. Shai coming in at number 8. Is that fair? Where would you rank Shai? Just kind of lay out your NBA opinion right here.
yeah, I didn't scroll through the whole list. I thought all those rankings were interesting Thunder wise. And those things are so subjective. Like even the ESPN list before the season caught some flack. Like you can never win doing those lists. Like you just can't win. As far as Shai, and we talked about this, as far as Shai being 8, I think 8 to 10 range. I'll listen if you say 7 is fair for him right now, especially with how good he's been. As far as this season, he's probably had a top 5 start to the season. He's just been money. The stuff he's doing is just basically in his sleep. The two-way stuff has reached a level that I don't think it has before in his career, to where he's had multiple games of 5 steals. There's a lot of pressure off of him as a defender, considering they got POA guy like Lou and POA guy like Cason now, to where he can just be that help guy and off-ball defender. And it's really helped him maybe not peak as a defender, but he's reached from what we've seen, his peak so far as a two-way guy. And so I think he's had a top 5 start, but I think he's still probably along that fringe of like right inside the top 10. 8, I thought like blindly is probably fair. But like seeing who he leapfrog was kind of crazy. Like seeing him leapfrog KD and Bron, like they had D Book at 7. And don't get me wrong, D Book raised his status in my personal, inside my own head based on what he was doing the last postseason, how he kind of elevated his game. But I don't think D Book. I don't know that I want to say D Book is better than Shai right now. I think they're in similar ranges. I thought the conversation. I don't know when the conversation moved from skipping past Bron and KD, right? Like when did we get to Shai and Book right there are the 7 and 8?
Yeah, I think the ranking is fair. I think that, with Shai, you could argue he's better than D Book. That's going to be, like you said, subjective. Each market is going to think that their guy is the best when you get up to this level where it's so hard to separate how great, the top of the guys are. This is a very razor thin edge. If you want to put a priority on the defensive impact and lack thereof for other players, I can see where you move Shai up the list above 8. But in general, 8 is a good mark for Shai from the Ringer. Now, the Ringer also rated Chet, but more specifically on Chet, has this start been what you were expecting? Has it been better than expected? Like, where are you at sitting right now with Chet's first 19 games of his career?
Yeah, I'm not sure how many people can honestly claim that they expected him to look this poised, this mature, this far along. I guess he's been a real. Like I especially think people probably expected the race between him and Wembanyama to be, much closer. I'm not saying it's way distant or something. Obviously very different situations, but I did come into the season thinking Wemby would have this nutty stat line and just be, kind of brush over all the malpractice going on in San Antonio. But it hasn't exactly worked out that way. And a lot of that is because of his surroundings and whatnot. But Chet, with the surroundings, he's kind of stamped himself as this team's second best player, even on nights when, the three isn't falling, which has happened, a couple times recently. Like the defensive impact is there, man. Like he's really mature on that end. Just as a rim protector, a guy who's, playing at the level of the screen, the way he moves around, it's all like, it has people in this gaze where they're like, okay, the movements are like KD, their movements are like this. Like it's hard not to compare him to other people because of how well he's moving and how good he's looked. Like he's had a crazy start to the year, and I don't think anybody could say that, the rookie of the month stuff is anything but deserved. I don't know that there was a guy behind him that was even remotely close.
Yeah, I think that he deserved Rookie of the Month for the Western Conference. He got it the last couple of days. I think that he has been better than expected this quickly on both ends. Obviously, the efficiency is stuff you just don't see from a rookie. The defensive stuff you don't see from a rookie as good as he is right now, and him playing the bulk minutes, him playing back-to-backs, all that stuff, it was really encouraging so far through his first 20 games. And I think that the voters have also earned some credibility. I thought that there was no way we'd be having Rookie of the Year discussions because these voters were the same ones who had Victor as the best prospect since LeBron, and the hype around Victor was so severe that I thought he would get the benefit of the doubt with the voters all season long. And then to the voters' credit, a lot of them are right now through 20 games picking Chet. There's still a long way to go with if he's actually going to win the award for Rookie of the Year. But still, Chet's been awesome for this team on both ends, and he's been – I think he's proven the model for the Thunder where they want to use him as a center. It can work, and it is working, and I think it's going to work.
Yeah, and the Victor best prospect since Bron stuff, I'm not going to dismantle that because in terms of strictly being a prospect, like Victor was and is still like that. Obviously, again, like I mentioned, his situation out there, they're trying like the Sohan point guard experiment, and Trey Jones isn't really all that good. I think I came into the year thinking like Trey Jones, by the end of this rebuilding thing for them, that he could be like a good backup point guard for them. I don't even know if in the end stages he'll be that for them. Like I really haven't been super pleased watching the guys they surrounded him with. And obviously there's a stark difference in, how the ball placement between Trey Jones and Sohan for obvious reasons. But even then, like people are right when they say Wemby doesn't have it as good as Chet. But even then, what Chet has done with it, like you said, the efficiency, he never steps out of himself. Everything always comes within the offense. It's not like he's overexerting himself, right? Obviously, he doesn't have that kind of load like a first option would because he's not one. But what he's done within his shot selection, within the load he's been giving, on both ends, it has been nuts. Like it's been insane to watch. And I don't know the exact on-off numbers, but I know when he's off the floor, I'm like, and the Thunder have done fine experimental things, but when he's off the floor, I'm like, bro, I need to see him back on because he's been that impactful, so.
And that's been true with Chet Holmgren. We're going to have your 3 surprises about the Thunder and 3 surprises about living in Oklahoma City coming up, as well as talk about the rest of this roster. But first, I want to say right now, my good friends over at eBay Motors, folks. eBay Motors is great because they have the perfect fit for your ride every time. And with that, they've partnered with Josh Lloyd to get you the perfect fit for your fantasy team as well. It's Locked On Fantasy Basketball, Josh Lloyd, and he's given us some perfect fits for our fantasy team so far. No matter if you're playing daily fantasy sports or playing in a season-long league, a few options to pick up this week. Patrick Williams back in the starting lineup for Chicago. Obi Toppin shooting lights out for the Pacers right now in a high-powered offense. Kelly Oubre, Derek Lively, Killian Hayes. I have to go Derek Lively. He gets spoon-fed by Luka Doncic, and he's taking advantage of it. He is going to help you at a center spot that there might not be a ton of options. If he's still around in your league, you should go pick up Derek Lively from Josh Lloyd. And now you should go to eBay Motors and pick up whatever parts you need for your car. With over 122 million parts to choose from, make sure your number one ride or die keeps on cooking and the ride stays smooth. So they have brakes, LED lights, they have roof racks, bumpers, whatever you need to keep your baby up and running. eBay Motors has it for you, and it has the eBay Guaranteed Fit. That's why I love it so much, because, Joel, I know nothing about cars, absolutely nothing, and I am able to just go there, plug my make, my model, my year into their database, and they're only going to show me car parts that are compatible with my vehicle. That way I'm not guessing. That way I'm not picking the wrong one. That's why it's the Guaranteed Fit. And at these prices, you're going to be burning rubber and not cash. So keep your ride or die alive at eBay Motors. Go to eBay Motors right now. Guaranteed Fit is only available in U.S. Eligible items only, and exclusions do apply. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, talking Thunder basketball. Check out the Locked On Sports Today YouTube channel, as it's a 24-hour stream of all the biggest stories in sports. Joel, you are the Oklahoman beat writer joining us today, and we're going to discuss your move to Oklahoma City, and the surprises from this Thunder team. So hit us with your 3 biggest surprises about the Thunder, and then your 3 biggest surprises about living in Oklahoma City.
Surprises about the Thunder. That's tough. I guess number one would be how well they've done to start the season. I wasn't as harsh on them as Joe Mazzato was. I think he had them as like a play-in-ish team. I probably would have said they were an 8 or 7 seed. And I know my take earlier wasn't much higher than that they finished, 5th or 6th. Maybe they finished 4th. But they've certainly been better than what I previously imagined. And a lot of that, again, has to do with Chet being as advanced as he is, and J-Dub just getting better with another year. Shai being as good as he's been, and a lot of it is it's been probably the hot topic this week among Thunder Twitter is how good and cheap their bench has looked, and now it's coming into focus because there's this thing now where people are like, well, it's their championship window, and others are like, well, maybe not, but so long as they kind of had this unit of cheap, good, genuinely good talent surrounded by that core 3, it puts pressure on the Thunder. Probably, I don't know about this year, but certainly this summer and beyond that to really take that next step. So they've surprised me in just where they are in the rebuild and how good they've been. Other than that, surprises about the Thunder, damn. I don't know. I think the building. Well, the building is interesting. I obviously I've been to a few arenas now, in these past couple weeks, and I think their setup is interesting. It's very I don't know. It matches the OKC vibe. It doesn't do too much, but it's good. Like I like being home. I didn't like being home for those 6 straight games or whatever to start the season. That was overkill. But I like Paycom and just the general setup, and of course where I sit, I got a great seat every game, so I can't complain about that. And then I think kind of the fan base here has maybe not surprised me because I think I had an idea, but it is almost overwhelming. Like I came from Omaha, right? So OKC kind of feels like Omaha, but you just throw an NBA team into the mix. And I think it's underrated how much that does for a city. Like it genuinely elevates and changes a city. And so just seeing the fan base and how strong it is, how immersed they are, like it's been crazy to see interactions. And obviously that comes with hella trolls and everything else under the sun that comes with a fan base. But it's been overwhelming to see some of the feedback, especially in recent weeks, because we've had a pretty interesting start to the season. So
it has been a very interesting start to the season. But Joe's going back to your first surprise is how good this team is, and then you mentioned the bench and kind of the window. To me, I'm not expecting the Thunder to do anything severe at all this trade deadline. But I think that, as you alluded to, in the summertime, at that point, with a full-scale season and, as it's tracking right now, a postseason series, at that point, there's going to be more pressure and more kind of a discussion to be had about what the next step is, because you want to maximize on what the Thunder currently have. They got there a lot quicker. They got there maybe unexpectedly, but every NBA team wants to have a superstar that is flooded with cost-controlled talent, and that's what the Thunder have right now. And so where are you at in terms of just, as an observation, do you think that the Thunder, the window kind of should be delayed until the summer, kind of let this season play out? What are you expecting? Just kind of what's your vibe there?
Yeah, I think we just got to change the language, because I don't know
Right.
that you could really say this is their championship window.
No, yeah, for sure. Not their title window. Not at all. I don't think that they would. I think that fans are waiting for this big move to signify that like this team is trying to win again. I think that they're already trying to win. I think that they're already like going towards wins every single night. And I don't know that a big move is ever going to happen with the Thunder. I think that the big move, might just be letting these young guys develop. And the move you see might be, hey, go shore up the 5th starter. Hey, go get a really nice rotational player. Like that might be the big move versus going and trading for this star player to really let you know it's been hit into overdrive. I'm not sure they're ever going to go trade for a star player. Even with all the assets that they have, they're going to keep using those to prolong this opportunity, right? To prolong your ability to get more cost-controlled talent down the line. But, to rephrase the language, as you said, do you expect anything to happen crazy at the deadline versus kind of feeling it out toward the summer?
Probably not. And so going back to my point about changing the language, I would instead of saying championship window, I would say that there's contender pressure on them. Like maybe not now, but like certainly approaching the summer. Because I think this year is necessary for them as much as people hate to hear it. I don't think they should just be going full on experimental, trying these Rubik's Cube lineups for all 82 games. I think it has to reach a certain point where they fixate on something they like and something they feel will win. And I know it's kind of Dagon's thing anyway, but I think at a certain point, like I guess, and I kind of tried to ask Mark about this today, and he alluded to they're always kind of developing. They're always in this sort of developmental state. Like it's their value. It's not a state really, but I think you have to go through this year, as much as people don't want to hear it. You have to see how far this core plus this core of reserves, cheap reserves that are playing well, how far they can go on their own. Maybe you add a reserve at the deadline that can make some noise, that can kind of shift things up and change a look that you don't like from a lineup with Giddey, or you don't like something Micic gave you, or you don't like something whoever couldn't give you. Maybe you go out and get that, or try to address rebounding or something that overlaps. But I don't think, like, obviously people, the main target I see is Lauri Markkanen, and while he fits great, I don't think that works at the deadline. I don't even know if that would be possible. I think eventually it will be, but at the deadline, I'm not sure how much sense it would make, and it wouldn't change the championship chances of a team who hasn't played in a playoff series to just become instant contenders, right? Like, I think that's a summer move, if it's to happen at all. And I don't know if you saw this conversation yesterday where people were, I think Nate Jones kind of started it, but the whole conversation about this core three is, who they should move forward with, and they should be trying to, build around them, call safe guys that are just good playing reserves and whatnot. And I agree with that kind of mold, but I also don't think that excludes a guy like Lauri. I mean, it depends on how you feel about Lauri and his potential and who he is as a player. Obviously, he's an all-star, but he's not making super max bread. You know what I'm saying? And I saw like Michael at Sellout kind of hinted at the Nuggets trajectory and how they built things around Jokic and whatnot. And I don't know if this team has a Jokic, but it has a pretty good 1A and Shai Gilgeous, and now a pretty good second option in Chet. So they can't exactly build the same way, but looking at the Aaron Gordon trade, looking at stuff like that, like I could see Lauri Markkanen being that kind of trade for OKC. And I don't see why. I mean, this is stuff we can talk about down the line, way down the line. I don't see why those two ideas can't coexist. Like, they can still build around the core three, but the Lauri Markkanen trade can happen, and they can treat it like their Aaron Gordon trade.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to follow this team all the way through. And on a daily podcast, we're for sure going to have you on as much as you're available, as the beat writer of the Oklahoman, Joel Lorenzi, joins us today. Coming up, your 3 surprises from living in Oklahoma City, and then also talking about the rest of this roster. But first, I want to tell you right now, my good friends over at Gametime. Gametime is incredible. They have what you want. They have the lowest prices, last-minute tickets guaranteed. Look, we care about the NBA, obviously, doing a daily show about it. And we understand with the NBA, sometimes you're caught off guard with who's in the lineup, who's out of the lineup. Are they questionable? Are they probable? Are they going to play? And so if you're wondering, for example, the last game versus the Lakers, LeBron was questionable, didn't really know if he was going to go or not. You can just wait it out on Gametime and get the last-minute tickets, lowest prices all the way through tip-off. Go over there at Gametime and get you your tickets. They have a view from your seat, so you know exactly what you're going to buy. They have it for you for concerts, movies, music, comedy shows, sporting events, all that good stuff, including job loss protection, event cancellation protection. They have it all for you at Gametime. Go there right now. Download the Gametime app, create your account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That is LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase by downloading the Gametime app. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Terms and conditions apply at Gametime. We're back on the Lockdown Thunder podcast, on the Lockdown Podcast Network, your teams every day. Joel, what are your 3 biggest surprises of living in Oklahoma City?
Living in OKC. Honestly, I don't know that I've been here long enough to have a ton of surprises, especially because, I mean, half the time I spend on the road. But the one not so pleasant surprise has been the trains.
I knew it. I knew this is where you were going to go.
I've been public about this. You know, the trains, I wouldn't have a problem, but they only pop up like when you have something to do, like when you're trying to get somewhere, which is annoying. Obviously, I don't think I've ever lived in a city where that was a thing. Like I'm from Chicago, so there's a bunch of things that can obstruct where you're going, including construction, which I don't think I've seen a ton of at OKC, which I thank God for. But the trains they're hard to avoid, man. Like you can't really avoid them, especially out where I stay. So that has easily been the worst surprise for sure. Outside of that, I don't know. OKC, I kind of mentioned it earlier, but I think it's a better city than it gets credit for. I think people really only acknowledge OKC because the Thunder are here, which is probably like fair. But after living here, like I get it, man. Like I get why people live here. Like it's better than people would imagine. So
it is really cool. The trains are not cool though. I will admit. I was coming back late night the other day, and a train broke down. Not just a train going by; it broke down. Sat there 15 minutes, and then the train conductor comes out with a little lantern. He goes, "Yeah, you guys might want to go find a new route. We're going to be here a while." And it's like, okay, I had to drive all the way. It was a mess. It was an absolute mess. I'm with you. Trains. I mean, what are we doing? Let's modernize things a little bit.
Lantern was crazy. Like he was in Harry Potter.
He had a lantern. It was actually kind of cool, but also kind of scary at first. I didn't know for a fact he was the train conductor, but then it became clear pretty quickly. But one of the biggest surprises for most people has been Cason Wallace. Now, I thought it was pretty evident throughout media day and training camp with the way Mark was talking, when the players were talking about Cason, that they had trust in him and he was going to be a big part of this team. But some people still thought, as a rookie, maybe they ease him in. Maybe he doesn't have a huge role, but he has had a huge role. And what have you seen from Cason Wallace, and kind of where do you fall on him, as a kind of prognosis for the rest of his career?
Yeah, I think like somebody asked me this in my own mailbag. They asked me how many people I would take above Cason in a redraft, and I hate redrafts a month into the season. I answered the question delightfully though, because I think it's a fair question because of how much of a pleasant surprise he's been. And again, the shooting, I don't think to that degree will be sustainable, but for him to just be a guy that can come down, spot up, knock down shots, and relieve pressure off Lou as a POA guy, or guard a team's second best player. He chased Clay a lot in some of those games. So like, just the ability to come in as a rookie and do that has been huge for them in their early success. And I think it's huge moving forward for. I know a lot of people, like, when he was drafted, probably thought, this is a Lou duplicate. Like, there were some concerns there, but I think it's given them freedom probably more freedom than they had to choose who they want to move off of moving forward, depending on who gets expensive or whatever. If that decision comes, like, Cason gives them some flexibility. And I think there's probably, I don't know yet, because we've probably only seen him really try to create like twice off the dribble, but there might be some creator pop there that we just don't know exists because he hasn't had to do that. Like they haven't, not only have they not asked him to do that, but he hasn't had to because of how relatively deep that bench has been for a young team. So like, I know people are pissed at Giddey, understandably so, because he hasn't been good. But Cason gives you the freedom to kind of move off of a Giddey or move off of whoever the case may be, like whoever people feel isn't in the long-term plans. Like I don't see how Cason couldn't be in the long-term plans, and because of the shot making, which is certainly different than Lou, it gives him some flexibility.
All right, Joel, this was a great show about the Thunder. Let's get to know you rapid fire style. Number one, who in the NBA do you play most like?
I don't know. I'll probably play like Adam Sandler or some shit. I'm really, I don't know if I got an NBA comp in me. I'm probably too bad to have an NBA comp. Somebody on the bench, some power forward or some shit. Maybe Dario.
Some power forward or something there with Joel. I've already announced on the last power rankings of media members playing 2K that I was number one. We're gonna find out tonight if that changes.
We might have to stream. We might have to stream this. Can we stream that?
Yeah, we'll have to. We'll have to stream it because you would be taking a huge step if you were at number one. Now you're automatically like top three because there's not a ton of gamers on the beat, but yeah, going to number one.
Who's the other person in the top three?
Cade's good at 2K. He's really good at 2K, but you know, we'll have to. Well, Nick Crane says he's good at 2K. I don't believe him at all, but I'm number one without a doubt right now. Now we're gonna settle it on the sticks in a little bit, but we know you play 2K. What are your give me 3 artists you really like to listen to?
3 artists. Oh, we could be here all day. I'm a music.
That's why
guy.
I said 3.
Right. I think Kendrick is my favorite all time. I don't know about his last album. It wasn't my favorite. I've been spinning it more recently. But all time, that's my favorite rapper. Outside of Kendrick, I'm a big anybody who collabs with The Alchemist, the producer. I just think all those like Griselda, Earl Sweatshirt, like those type of guys are great. And then I'm real into soul. Like I like Erykah Badu and stuff like that. I got a whole playlist like Brent Faiyaz. Like that's my corner. That's my business. I like that whole lane. So
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much of a basketball sicko are you?
I think I'm probably like a 9. We had a back and forth at the G game the other day, and we were 2 of the 3 people at the G game. So I'm up there. I like to think I'm not you. I don't have a spreadsheet on draft guys with their age with a decimal. Like I'm not that, but I can go back and forth about who played for St. Peter's.
You're just gonna put my business on the street like that.
Sorry.
Hey, I am the biggest sicko on the beat. I'll wear that proudly, but I gotta go watch some synergy clips of JUCO guys here in a second. But Joel, it's been great having you on your debut show. We're gonna hopefully do this again whenever you're free. But let them know where they can find you on social platforms, find your work at the Oklahoman, and everything you're doing.
Yes, sir. My Twitter should be below. It's at JX Lorenzi. So if you don't know how to spell my name, it's Lorenzi. That's where I do most of my business. And then of course, Oklahoman, the Oklahoman, the paper, or Oklahoma.com. They can find me there under the Thunder tab. That's mostly me there. Of course, my guy Joe Musato is still on the beat. He just got done with some college football stuff, so you'll see him there too. But those are the 2 places you can catch me. So
we'll say
hey, and the podcast. We doing the pod now, Thunder Buddies. We revived it, so you can catch me there too.
There you go, Thunder Buddies. I'll say you made your Locked On Thunder debut before Joe did. Joe big time you whenever I was younger in the business, and then we never got around to it. So luckily we've had the Oklahoman beat writer on here now. Hopefully we'll have Joe on soon. Joe's great, obviously, to both of us. But Joel, thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow for some blue action against Damon Thompson. But until then, be good and be good to one another.